salutations. My name is Matthew Progress, and welcome to Our Common Thread, a structured yet organic discussion between professional costume designers Antoinette Messam, Colleen Morris, and Jennifer Bryan. When you take on a new job, how do you first assess the project and develop an approach as a costume designer? Antoinette?
Before I'm even hired for the job, I try to do as much research as possible. I research the script that I'm given. I research the people that I'm interviewing with. I research everything because knowledge is key. It's like you get a new Bible every job, and breaking it down, understanding the characters, deep diving into where do they live? What is their background? What is their job? What is authentic? What is organic? To then build on the fantasy, And that's my process. I just need to start from the Bible, the book, if you want to say that.
It's like you hire yourself for the job before you get the job. Because what you have to do is a fair amount of research. Normally, one would either have a combination of several conversations and presentations, and you have to leave enough room to hear your writer and your director, producers too, and definitely actors. It's like a recipe. You have to make sure every single person at the end of that feels that their voice was heard and that you've represented their ideas in your presentation or your look or how you want to clothe that show, clothe that story. And so that's what I think we bring to the project as costume designers. It's not just shopping and putting on a pretty dress on someone. It's deeper.
Absolutely. For me, again, also starts with research because especially if you're doing period, it definitely is research. You have to research what the cut is, the colors that were used at that time, the fabrics that were used at that time. A film I did, it was set from 1885 to 1931, but there were certain things that the director did not like about the costumes of that time. Yeah. So I had to remove things, but still have it look period, but slightly modernize it without you looking at it thinking, what the hell? So it's a challenging job, but it's a good one.
It just seems like there's, with each job, such a huge amount of variables, and it's really about finding that perfect equation among all the variables of that particular job.
Absolutely.
I think that's a really good segue into the next question. I know that your job, it requires a lot of research and for you to gather many different materials in between color palettes and fabrics and accessories. How do you begin to narrow down what you will use for a particular project? Antoinette, you could go first.
Start with me. Each project is different. Every project is different. And, after we do the initial process of figuring out what is the story we're telling, then you start to think about what do you need for these characters, and start building closets and stock depending on, the story. But I think of it as a closet. I think of it as the person in this story, and I'm stepping into their home and their world, and what does their closet need, and building that closet that they will then dress from. The story can shift, so not only specific to scenes, I build closets that we can then on the day, or with a shift in the story, or the actor has a thought, or the director has a request, that there's things that are within the closet to dress that character.
That makes perfect sense. Jennifer?
Very, very similar. And a lot of times you really don't have a specific placement for an item that you see, but what happens is once you're into the project and it's like literally flooded in your head, everything that pertains to that period, if it's a period movie or whatever the atmosphere of the project is, every single thing that that just clicks with that, that's all you really see.
Yeah.
If I'm doing a very modern, fashion-driven piece, all I see around me is things that fit that mold, because immediately I have to kind of put on blinders so I'm not distracted by a beautiful 17th century, pantaloon, because I'm not doing that. And it's very easy for that to happen. So it's almost like you get magnifying glasses, and every single thing that could possibly work in that show or script or what have you, you collect it, because our work day can be very, very fluid. We may have something approved, set, ready to go, and in the morning, 15 minutes before camera, something happens. It could be accidental, like the actor spilled coffee on this custom-made white shirt that you told him don't eat any food in it, but they went ahead and did. Or it could be a lighting situation.
That sounds specific.
Oh yeah. Do you think there's a story behind that? Yeah, there is. Because we draw from our experiences. So you learn to have backups in your closet. Yeah. And yes, and one of the secret tips is that you don't just dress the character, the story, the background for exactly as it is. You want to give yourself a little bit of practical room and creative room, because it is fluid. And every day you get on set, or every day you walk onto that stage, be prepared for something to change, and you have to be prepared for it. Everybody that you see in clothes, and most of them will be, we have to put our eyes on it. So even if it's some guy way in the background crossing the street at a traffic light, we made sure that worked in terms of what's happening more in the foreground. So it's a lot, but I think we are kind of addicted to it, and we love it, and we do it.
Absolutely. For me, I would say I'm very big into research, whether it's contemporary, because I think a lot of people think because it's a modern film, it's easy. It's not. It's not. It's actually harder, exactly, because it happens to where they're shooting. If it's LA, it's very different from New York. If it's London, wherever it is, it still needs a lot of research. Mm-hmm. And that's where I usually start from, is the research. It kind of helps me tell a story. And not only that, especially as we know, people of color, I might like this really lovely yellow, this blouse, and then someone comes in and you're like, no. So there's so much that we as costume designers have to do when it comes to dressing an actor, because you're dressing a character, but you also have to dress the actor behind the character.
Yeah,
you really do. Because if they're tall, short, big, small, whatever they are, we still have to have that vision of what we had for the character, but then we have to adjust it to the actor.
So I just wanted to shift to another kind of important question around surviving and thriving in the industry. Culture and technology are constantly evolving, and this has a major effect on the entertainment industry. Having all got your starts over 3 decades ago, how have you been able to evolve with society in order to stay relevant and in touch with the entertainment industry? And I'll give this to you first, Antoinette.
Staying current with technology, period. I mean, that's the first thing that comes to mind when you say that I feel that it's important, especially more movies are being made, bigger budgets, shorter time, different locations, sometimes shooting in multiple locations at the same time, and being able to adapt quickly and maneuver quickly is important. And for me, it's making sure that, when somebody says, oh, I don't use computers, well, how can you not in this time in filmmaking? 90% of how we communicate is with our devices, whether it be our phone, our computer, or iPad, and learning to do our jobs on location, on the go, in the moment, and being able to use those devices. You know, I just did a short little lesson on how to do research quickly with apps on your mobile devices, because I could be standing in front of my director and he asked me about a resource or a costume or an item, and I may have to pull it up quickly and show him, and know how to show him, and show him how it works within what we're doing. Or just to give something quickly to your team. So I think for me, what I've had to adapt over, 30 years in this business is keeping up with technology. And am I rusty and need to go back and sit behind a sewing machine? Absolutely. But then I want to learn how to illustrate on my iPad with an app. So, you need the base, obviously, but I think it's important to stay current.
And yourself, Jennifer?
Absolutely. Technology. Look, I come from a school back in the day when we would use good old Polaroid spectral film to take continuity photos.
Yeah.
Remember those days, guys?
Yeah.
And you put them on a D-ring and you clip them on your hip and you have a fanny pack.
Yeah.
Well, I've seen that to just what Antoinette just described, an instantaneousness where you have your device, whether your iPad, your cell phone, what have you, and be able to really, literally in an instant, do the kind of stuff that it used to take us days to do. And you have to make technology your friend. You have to find ways to adapt to it, even though we're in a creative craft. And then there's technology, and the two things sound like they may not work together because technology tends to be very empirical. 1 and 1 is 2, whereas we can make it look like 3 when you're creative. But what's beautiful about technology, it actually is an art. So it melds with what we do. I can't think of any endeavor in the 21st century that doesn't involve it. And if you don't use it to your advantage, you use it in research, you use it in presentation, you use it in the administration of your department. If you don't do that and get on board with it, then you will get left behind. So every way that, I love anything that plugs into a wall anyway, so I'm good with it, love it.
For young people watching who may be interested in studying and pursuing a career in costume design or fashion design of some sort, what are your suggestions? Maybe you can start, Jennifer.
A couple of things. This industry, this craft, creative craft, it's very wide. There are many, many things you can do. So, alluding to what we talked about before, the distinctions between a stylist, a costumer, a costume supervisor. The first thing I would think you would want to do is to kind of isolate what it is, which field, which subfield of costume design or styling that you want to do. Once you've identified that, then the next thing is to arm yourself with education. Kind of going back to what my parents taught me. So you want to learn it. You want to learn it as much as you can, as much information. We talked about technology, the iPad, the phone. I mean, that's literally a library that you're wearing it, that you have in your pocket every single day. Any free time, look up something, study something, learn something. You don't necessarily have, your education doesn't have to be formal, like going to art school or fashion design school, but it definitely requires an education. It requires you wanting a target and then target your education to that. And that, just that alone will get you in the right place.
I'd love to speak to this because I get a lot of that question. How do I get into the business, whether it be a fashion stylist or a costume designer, or just wanting I want to do what you do, Antoinette. And I'm like, well, let's get specific. The thing is that what I would love to say to our audience today is do your research. Before you even ask me, where are you reaching out to me from? Google's my best friend. Have you looked on Google to see if there's any online classes, any local schools, any internships? Like, I can't tell you what you can do in Minnesota in costumes. I've never been there. If you're asking me, then you want to work in costumes, or you want to do music videos, or you want to style. Have you stopped to check what is available to you in your immediate local, where you are right now? And when I say that, it's because I get it from all over the world. And I'm like, well, where are you? And what's available to you where you are?
If you say you want to be a costume designer or a fashion designer, look from where you are and look at the arc of how to get there. Mm-hmm. And make sure you start somewhere that's tangible. Be it working in a store, learning fabrics, learning how to do alterations. Mm-hmm. There's so many aspects of our job. Learning to dye. The good thing about today, as you're watching this on the internet, there's so many classes you can take online. Mm-hmm. Don't be afraid to work for free in the beginning.
Yeah.
Because if you have nothing to offer, make sure you can't offer your time. As an upcoming designer, I would say what I've done in the last few years is there's a few writers that I know very well. So, start with short films. Mm-hmm. Short films is a great way of learning and getting your community. You get to know writers, you get to know directors, you get to know producers, and they'll grow with you. And then someone else will know that you did it. Someone else will see your short, and it just grows and grows and grows. So it's steps. It really is. But you'll get there.
Only just to quickly add to that also is think about, a lot of it is having a map of relationships. So you probably know more people that you can associate with and link with than you realize. My big break, I still go back to that chance conversation, bumping into my old school chum on West 34th Street. That actually was my big break. You have to have the wherewithal to recognize it as such and jump on it, move on it.
I think you've all put the ball in the viewer's court right now, and that's a wonderful place for us to sign off. I want to thank you all so deeply for conceptualizing this and offering this. It was such a pleasure to have this conversation with you. So thank you.
Thank you, Matthew.
Yeah, it was wonderful. This was so great. One love.
One love. Okay. Peace out.
Yeah.